Hey guys, I think we are all excited about this panel now. I think we have some of the key people from the space. So maybe I think let's start with a round of intros, and maybe Pat, we can start from you since you have the privilege of sitting closest to me. So maybe name, role, and a little bit about your project, like a couple of lines.
Sure. So I'm Patrick Kearney, head of growth at Relay. Relay is an intents-based exchange protocol. A lot of word jargon, so let me break that down super simply. We help you move any token to any chain instantly. We're really working to kind of add support for as many major and minor blockchains and all the tokens kind of within those ecosystems. But ultimately, it comes down to the end user experience, making sure that they can get where they need to go as quickly and as cheaply as possible.
Austin, yeah.
All right. I'm Austin Federa. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of the 00 project. We are crypto's first infrastructure project, instead of the joke we like to say. We're building physical fiber infrastructure for high-performance distributed systems. So alternative pathways to the public internet for consensus, block propagation, all that sort of thing.
Hi guys, I'm Hillary Adler. I'm the co-founder of Bitcoin OS, or BOSS. I'm also our chief commercial officer. Essentially, we've built and are building a central crypto operating system for all chains that want to inherit Bitcoin liquidity, Bitcoin users, and Bitcoin security as the most institutionalized, adopted main chain. So,
Hey everyone, Saeed Badreg, CEO of Wormhole Labs. We build interoperability infrastructure. So we help assets and data go cross chain, and we build both on the infrastructure layer and also on the application layer.
Awesome. And so, kind of now moving a little bit deeper. So, each of your solutions is solving like a cross chain issue from a different angle, like messaging, performance. Uh, like, how does your solution sit into the broader cross chain stack? Like, what exact problem are you solving and where does it stick in the stack? Maybe say starting from you this time.
Well, we really focus across the entire stack. Traditionally, we focused a lot on the core infra part, which is just building the messaging layer, being able to interoperate between different blockchains. But as the industry has matured and progressed, and as the technology has kind of battle hardened and matured, we find ourselves building more and more technology further up the stack. So you can think of stuff that we've done in terms of relaying, things that we've done to optimize performance, obviously introducing new runtimes, all of that kind of in the infrastructure space. And then there's a lot of new products that have to do more about applications, front ends, SDKs, things that make it super easy for developers to just quickly plug in and have the full suite of capabilities and functions that they want so that they can be cross-chain from day one. So, when we first started, nobody was thinking about deploying their dApps on multiple blockchains. Now, the majority of builders who are starting in the space or building a new product in this space expect to be on multiple blockchains day one. So a lot of the tooling and the applications that we provide help provide that in hopefully a seamless way.
so I think if we roll back to September to December 2024, and there was all of this hype about Bitcoin L2s, and there were 90 plus coming to market. And the reality is, it's Fugazi, right? There's no such thing as a fucking Bitcoin L2. You can't roll up to Bitcoin. And so when we sat down with Bitcoin OS and we were looking at ZK technology, we thought, okay, there is a way where we can bring smart contract functionality to Bitcoin, which is how Ethereum spun out. Vitalik decided he wanted to create Ethereum because of the limitations on Bitcoin, and he wanted to create smart contract functionality. But where BOSS set out is we said, okay, let's bring smart contract functionality to Bitcoin via ZK proofs. We verified the first ZK proof on Bitcoin. We took Merlin, which is it wants to be a Bitcoin L2, and we rolled it up to Bitcoin on testnet, soon hopefully on mainnet, and that will enable not just all these 90 plus Bitcoin L2s to actually become true Bitcoin L2s, but projects like Cardano, who have integrated Boss, Arbitrum, some major projects that I can't say right now that want to roll up to Bitcoin and access that infrastructure in a sustainable way. So I think that was a big problem that we set out to solve, and we're solving with the proliferation of Bitcoin L2s as that grew into a big institutional asset class.
All right. Well, it sounds like the BitVM wars have begun.
Well, they began a long time ago.
So we sit in a really interesting place in the crypto stack because we actually don't sit on the crypto stack at all. So 00 is an OSI layer 1, 2, and 3 network, if you remember your ComSci 101 classes. So we are far below anything today that operates on blockchain. Most things are layer 5 and above. That includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, cross-chain messaging. All of that is software implementation. It's not actually physical hardware and infrastructure. And so the way we sort of think about this is like one of the main things holding blockchain back today is that it has to use the public internet. And the public internet is a fantastic resource for reach. It is very bad for high performance, right? 98% of the time of an Ethereum block is just for networking and consensus. It's not actually for compute. It's not for votes. It is for votes, but it's just for data movement around the world. And so if you look at a network like Solana, they've built a validator client that can do 1 million transactions per second. You look at Aptos, you can benchmark it to 700,000 TPS. You look at Sui, you can get very similar numbers. Then you look at prod, and it's like significantly lower. And there's a lot that goes into that. But one major factor is just because you can produce blocks quickly, you need to get that data replicated all around the world as quickly as possible. You need people to vote on it and return those votes to the network for it to keep moving forwards. And so what we're building is an alternative pathway with modern technologies that allow that to happen. So you can use things like multicast. You can use all these technologies that are not available on the public internet. We have low jitter, we have zero jitter, we have low latency. And these are the same technologies that TradFi and Google and Amazon and Facebook and all these companies have been using for years. The difference is those private networks are all managed by one centralized company and one centralized authority. Our kind of main breakthrough with 00 is developing a system where multiple independent contributors can contribute individual fiber links or a graph of fiber network to build something that appears as one homogeneous network, but under the hood is actually many independent providers that have, economic checks and balances on each other, just like a smart contract network appears to the program running on top of it as one distributed computer system, and under the hood, it's run by thousands of different individual participants.
Awesome. And Pat, what about you from Relay side?
So I think it's somewhat binary, and I think there's a very good example of this recently. How many of you in the audience heard of a token called Bitcoin? Just by a show of hands. Sounds like some of you have. And I think this is kind of one of our perspectives at Relay is we want to be somewhat risk tolerant or even leaning into that risk profile in making sure that our end users are supported in getting where they need to go when they need to get there. And I think Bitcoin, there's a number of different kind of token hits that have happened, in Q1, Q2 of this year. And then it kind of references almost back to the entire approach of intents-based architecture, which is, as the solver, as the platform, we're taking on the risk to ensure that the end user is getting their fill, getting what they needed, and as quickly and with the best kind of end UX as possible.
Awesome. I think that gave a very good perspective from very different points of view. So, yeah, and kind of see interoperability a lot of time is thought of at the protocol level, but actually interoperability runs through the entire stack. It's not just the protocol, right? And with there have been a lot of hacks happened in the past, especially kind of when you think of cross-chain interoperability. So and especially now with institutions coming in, regulated institutions. So what do you think maybe Pat, starting from you, is required to make this, interoperability solutions more reliable, more secure, performant, so that it wins the trust, especially, of these regulated institutions and so on?
I honestly think I'm probably the least qualified person on this stage to be speaking to this point.
I don't know. I
So-
might have you there.
But to speak to that, I think even, to pivot, all of these experts kind of speak to the interoperability piece. But I also think there's this aspect of like the front end, and like actually decentralizing front ends is like something that comes up almost at every conference, and no one seems to be really focused on it. So I'll just throw that out there. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, interop and these are questions that exist at multiple layers of the stack, and so there's a lot of solutions out there today that are saying, look, anytime you move from one state machine to another state machine, you introduce points of exploitation. And so there's a lot of interesting solutions, like most intent-based systems are using some sort of zero-knowledge proof under the hood. There are like next-generation stuff beyond zero-knowledge systems coming out, whether that's FHE or some of the stuff that's going on with like Succinct and those folks. But at its core, the way we think about this is you need the data first, right? So I mentioned multicast before, which is basically a technology that kind of turns data transmission on the internet into something much more similar to like FM radio, where right now, every time a new validator wants to receive packets, that's more work that the validator network has to do to get that data across. Like, even if you're running a single sequencer, the bottleneck on the single sequencer is how quickly you can propagate the data out from the single sequencer to all the RPCs or the zero knowledge provers or whatever system you're using there. And so one of the cool things about multicast is you can have like basically a feed for Solana, a feed for Bitcoin, a feed for any L2, any type of system that you want to use. And so it makes data much more available to folks. And it's not a data availability layer, it's really about data transmission. But if you're running a system that requires data from two blockchains, one of the main ways these things get exploited is basically if the data is not up to date, or if there's a deviation between the two and it's not really caught or understood. And so one of the things that, again, we're not primarily building anything related to messaging or execution or interoperability, but you can use 00 to build better versions of all of that type of thing. Like if you look at something like Wormhole, right, one of the things Wormhole has to do is read a lot of data from a lot of different states of a lot of different blockchains and then transmit data out to all those blockchains for their validators or their sequencers to include them and do stuff on top of it. And so if we improve the base layer data flows for all these systems, it's like going from a 2G iPhone to a 3G iPhone. Like the stuff you could build once you finally got high connectivity on a mobile platform was just orders of magnitude more than you could build before. And who knows what this will all create in the future, but our goal is basically to throw the network a decade or more of fundamental base layer scaling so we can really start stretching the limits on the software side. Because right now, the thing holding back blockchains, it's not the software anymore. It's not the validator clients. It's not execution. It's how quickly you can run communications between all these systems.
Elri, yeah.
So I think in order to understand me fully and why I was so attracted to found Bitcoin OS, you have to know that I came from Cosmos. Spent years in that ecosystem. Interoperability is at the bones of kind of my thesis on the industry. And I do think that there is this kind of cosmosification of the rest of crypto, while sadly Cosmos itself dies. But I'm going to go less technical here. The second part of your question was where you see the biggest pain points in making cross-chain systems reliable and performant. Forget the reliability and performance problem. We have an ego problem. And bear with me here. Every builder and every chain thinks that they must do it all. They must do it all. They must build the bridge. They must build the infrastructure. They must build the stables and the dApps. And then they must build all the consumers that are using that dApps and the TVL that comes along with it. This is bullshit. You don't have to build it all. Be willing to partner with people who subsidize outside of your core mission and help you deliver those consumer apps and to your ecosystem, if that's what you're doing as a chain. Now, maybe I'm just a romantic. Clearly, I'm the only woman on this fucking stage, so probably I am the only romantic. But I still think that we can get back to a time where we built together on a similar mission, where teams didn't wax poetic about each other on stages, and then undermined each other behind closed doors. So,
Saeed?
Wow. You made me forget the question, but I think I know where it started. But I would say for us, like the way that Wormhole views it is there's there's definitely a lot of issues in terms of scaling some of these protocols and trying to do it all as she was saying. I think there are some hard challenges. Like we're excited to work with 00 in terms of all the data that they're bringing on chain. So all of those all that state data that they're capturing, we would love to be providing that to all of the integrators that are using Wormhole for their products. We'll you know, on the flip side of that, we're also transmitting an insane amount of data. If you look at Pyth, for example, we took Pyth from one blockchain to over 100 blockchains. And that's, kind of a normal oracle. You can view it that way, but it's really providing high-fi financial data for all of crypto. And that means equities, crypto, bonds, all these new assets, all these RWAs that are coming in. And you're getting a level of data transmission, to use Austin's word, that hasn't been seen in the industry before. Underneath that, they've partnered with really good infrastructure providers to be able to provide that service. The broader industry, the broader ecosystem gets the benefit from that. So anyone who's improving the performance, who's bringing these new capabilities to bear, there's a lot of different ways in which we can work together. And you can't build it all yourself. You have to partner. If 00 is going to basically take us to just a new paradigm shift in terms of how we can transmit packets across the crypto internet or the new internet. I don't know what you guys are calling it. But, if you guys are doing that, like there's definitely a role for Wormhole to play in that. And same for like the downstream applications that are using us for different types of applications and services that they're providing their end users. So yeah, I would say like kind of the short answer is there's always going to be these challenges, hacks, security vulnerabilities, all these different things. You have to take really big steps to secure yourself from that. Wormhole is obviously no exception. It's gone through some of the biggest in the history of the space. But you learn from that, you get hardened, and then you understand like where are the soft spots and where are the places where you can really move fast with a partner like 00 or Bitcoin OS or anyone else who's building really new tech that kind of changes, the game for people. We're almost had a hard time connecting to Bitcoin. We've always wanted to be able to provide that, but it's very, very difficult to do that in a decentralized way. Centralized, super easy. Lots of people do it. They like kind of lie to people about how decentralized it is. It's really just one guy in the back. Sometimes people have intense protocols. It's just one guy taking all your funds and just kind of like swapping between them. But if you care about decentralization and you care about some of the things that this space really values, they're really hard problems. And, I'm happy to see there's a lot of good teams kind of taking the next step. So I'll pass it back.
Awesome. I think, and kind of to that point, right? I think what's great about all of you guys here is we are from like different layers of the stack. So, whether it's about execution at the top or it's about the underlying network layer, right? I think what will be good for folks here to understand is how exactly are you reducing the cost, improving, reducing the latency, reducing the complexity, for actually projects to work in an interoperable way. So maybe to take a specific examples and amongst you guys here actually. So starting with say Austin, so how exactly is 00 helping improve bandwidth, lower costs, improve the messaging, for example say Bitcoin OS, for Pat here from Relay, for Wormhole?
Yeah, so you look at sort of the state of the internet today, and if you just do a trace route on a connection from, let's say, here to New York, it'll go through probably 30 to 40 different network switches before it actually gets in New York. And each of those switches will hold the packet for maybe 1 millisecond, 2 milliseconds, sometimes 30, 50, 500 milliseconds. Because what's happening is you have all of this traffic from all over the world trying to get to different places. And it's just like on the highway. If you have two highways merging, even if both is running at half capacity, the speed of traffic goes significantly down at that merge point, right? And so this is called jitter. This is the measurement of sometimes it's 200 milliseconds, sometimes it's 250, sometimes it's 180. That variance is a real killer for high performance systems because it means when you're receiving data on the other end, you now need a big buffer to reorder data and put it back in the right order. And this is why if you look at like high frequency trading firms, they don't use the public internet. And it's not because, oh, they're using huge amounts of data. They're sending very small amounts of data usually. What they need is extremely fast connections because if you can be fast or smart, you should always pick fast because you can be smart and get something wrong. It's very hard to be fast and get something wrong. And so we're sort of taking this approach and bringing this using dedicated fiber to not just the blockchain space, but all sorts of high performance distributed systems, whether that's file storage systems, whether that's people who want to build multi-game engines that will not have to run on top of Microsoft Azure. And we're starting with crypto because the product market fit is super strong. But that's kind of the whole vision of what we're doing is like we don't have a lot of prescriptive versions of what people are going to build on top of this. In fact, one of the cool things is when you build low-level infrastructure correctly, people build things on top of it that you never would have thought possible. Like, I don't think Steve Jobs thought he would change dating and taxis forever, but totally did. And you can take that thesis and you can apply it out to a ton of different stuff. When the folks, I was early Solana, but not like, so I spent the last 4 years at Solana before going to do 00. But, when we never thought like, oh, we're going to create meme coins, right? That's just a side effect of building a really fast network optimized for DeFi is people build NFTs on it. They build all sorts of other types of things you never would have imagined. And so if you can increase that capacity, it just makes it possible for entrepreneurs to build experiences and applications on blockchain that they can't build today. And so that's kind of our approach is just as simple as that, is like throw people more resources and they'll build more cool stuff.
Hillary, Saeed, and then you.
Yeah, so I think in order for Boss to understand the latency and complexity issue, you have to know that Boss is not a chain, right? It's a network of nodes, and crucial to these nodes is the Boss token. And the Boss token acts as a coordination mechanism for the SLAM nodes. Now, these nodes verify proofs, they manage vaults, they enable cross-chain interactions. And beyond that, if you look at our operating system, there are 2 out of 4 core innovative methods here to consider when we're talking about reducing cost complexity and latency. One is bridgeless bridging. I know that sounds like a weird term. Some marketer out there, me, said, let's forget trustless bridging and go with bridgeless bridging. But what this allows for is the movement of BTC between Bitcoin and other chains without centralized intermediaries. The second of those 2 core innovations is Bitcoin is slow as fuck, man. We all know that. But in terms of scalability, our ZK Tech allows you to compress thousands of transactions into a single Bitcoin transaction, which is unheard of. And when you do that and you roll it up to Bitcoin, you're massively decreasing any time in any type of latency or time to processing. So 1 block, not done before Boss. So
Saeed?
Can you repeat the question?
So the main thing is like specifically for Wormhole, maybe for the rest of the projects here, how do they leverage, for example, Wormhole to solve the issues which we discussed earlier?
Yeah, I mean, so like I think you mentioned earlier about decentralized front ends. Like we have a bunch of different developer tooling that people can leverage pretty much out of the box. Like we have a product called Connect that we work on. It's fully open source. Anyone can go and basically deploy the full suite of bridging capabilities that you would want for your dApp very easily. You can customize the branding for it. So if you have a dApp out there and you have, and you want to have like a bridging tab and you just want to make it super easy for users to interact with your product. If you've done the work to go and acquire the user, they've found out about your product, they found you on Twitter, they found you wherever you're kind of marketing to your users. They never have to switch context. They don't have to go figure out what is the official you know, a bridging website for that chain, or do I have to go to a third party site? They can stay within the context. They can use the product that you have almost immediately. They'll click on a bridging tab. It'll have all of the functionality, whether it's intents, whether it's wrapped assets, what have you. And you can deploy that super easily. So we're building a lot of tooling that just makes it super easy for this functionality to proliferate the developer ecosystem. We'll continue contributing to those projects as much as possible. That's on one side. The other side is obviously just some of the work that we're doing to help developers who care about cost, speed, all of the performance stuff that the entire industry is working on, whether on the L1 level or on the application level, or in our case, on the infrastructure level. So we'll continue to make those investments. And then lastly is just really helping out our ecosystem. Like everyone who is integrating any part of the stack, like we tried to partner with really good teams and work deeply with them if they're trying to push the envelope forward. A lot of the stuff that we decide to work on at Wormhole Labs is driven by that ecosystem. And it's pretty large because everyone, like I said, today, everyone kind of starts out multi-chain, multiple chains, and even if they're old protocols, even if they're Ethereum OG protocols, we work with all of them to in terms of like their cross-chain strategy. So a lot of the work that we do is in support or in partnership with our ecosystem. So if you are building something out there and you want to do something different, or you feel like interoperability sucks for XYZ reason, like those are the places where we like to partner and work with teams deeply, and we'll build specific infrastructure together that can push the interoperability space a little bit more forward.
Pat, if you want to chime in on that.
Sure. I think I referenced this earlier, so forgive me if I sound like a broken record, but we really do truly focus on the end user experience. And I think to put this very, very simply, no one should ever have to wait 7 days to get off a chain. That's it.
So with that note, maybe I think as we come kind of closer to the end as well, maybe it's time for like hot takes. So maybe what's, according to you guys, starting with you, Saeed, like the hottest, spiciest thing happening in multi-chain infra from Wormhole perspective, and then for each of you.
Hot take. We do a lot of stuff in the, like right now, that's like RWA is really hot. Institutions are super hot. I guess the kind of hot take is this. There's a lot of people out there that are providing great user experiences. They're really focused on providing this like amazing user experience. But really what it comes down to is just massive centralization. And it's definitely like a great user experience, right? But when you talk to like institutions and the people who are bringing RWAs on chain, like we've had the pleasure of working with BlackRock, Apollo, a bunch of these really massive asset managers, and actually bringing real TVL on chain, whether it's Biddle, whether it's Acred, whether it's Agora from the Van Eck, team. Like you start to realize that they're not unsophisticated, and decentralization really matters to them. And it matters because right now we're in a moment where everyone is like, no holds bar. You can do whatever you want in crypto. Trump launched a meme coin. I can't do anything worse than that. Like, but I think if you talk to these institutions, you talk to a lot of the smart players in the space, they understand that regulation is coming. And the only thing that really protects you from regulation is decentralization, right? There's not going to be like there's going to be two sets of rules, and the differentiating factor is like if you're centralized, you have to follow the rules that have been in place for a long time. And if you are decentralized, then you get to follow the new rules that basically allow for crypto to exist, right? But you can't be centralized and then not follow those rules. So I think that's the basic premise, and I think that would be my hot take, is like people are very much swinging to one side and they're not really seeing the whole picture, which is, we're in that moment of like maybe people are forgetting that important value within this and the reason why this industry even exists. I think that's going to show itself to be a more and more important thing as time passes.
I think my hot take is pretty complementary to yours. This industry is broken. People are apathetic. They're tired. The energy is not here like it used to be. We sit on these panels speaking into an echo chamber, sometimes on the same panels together.
I'd like to echo that.
Like Wormhole and Boss have been for the last 2 years. The only people making money, event organizers, KOLs, and meme coin gamblers. Nobody seems to care about true innovation. And I don't know quite when and where that happened. Avalanche. Like, I don't hold any Avalanche bags, so I'm going to show them without guilt. Avalanche is out there digitizing card titles in the state of California to make transference easier and to decrease fraud. Out in Cosmos, there's a woman named Deborah Simpier. Everybody should know her fucking name, and nobody does. And her company is called Althea. They're out there digging holes to bring blockchain-based internet infrastructure to people in places that nobody cares about. Nobody talks about innovations like that. We're at an inflection point right now as an industry. All of us in this room and in many other rooms out there. And we need to ask ourselves, what are we here for? Are we here to innovate and build for the next generation? Or are we simply here for value extraction? Because the latter is not what I signed up for when I decided 7 years ago to dedicate my career to this industry. It's broken, and I think all of you in this room and your friends and your colleagues and everybody you have on Telegram and Twitter, you need to ask, how are we going to fix it?
I think we are at time, so maybe like keep it short, but we'll.
Yeah, so the first is the ambition of the space is too small. We're excited about 10,000 transactions per second. These are all like rookie numbers if we're actually competing with TradFi. The second is I think over the next 2 years, the subsidies are going away and the tide's going to go out and turn the fee switch on. If you're a protocol running at a loss, if you don't have a fee switch on, like your days are numbered. And it's going to hit a lot of people hard. So like get some revenue.
I'll keep it quick. And I think, honestly, if you take a step back, I think we as a space, similar to what Saeed and Hillary both said, have lost the fucking plot. And we're not looking outside of ourselves anymore when we should be. I think we all need to take a hard look and start to think internally about how we could be kind of conveying ourselves as a collective space a little bit better. Because right now we have a pretty bad PR problem and nobody wants to touch us with a 10-foot pole. So, yeah.
With that, maybe we close out, and I mean, you guys will be available here. Feel free to hound them, ask them questions. So.
Thank you.